pop is Roll20. Our models are provided by HeroForge. Our overlay is provided by OBS. Our assets have been provided by Pixabay, and our music is provided by bensound.com.
Physician's log, Proxima Icarus, Dr. Gerard St. Germain, ordinal date 3200146, or May 26, 3200 by the galactic calendar. We've managed to gain clearance to dock at Station Rusa 6. I'm concerned for Byte's mental and emotional well-being, as our method of infiltration places an immense amount of pressure on him. His long duration in stasis is difficult enough of a challenge for one with so few years of life experience. At the danger of our current mission amongst an unfamiliar culture who are known for their less than charitable responses to acts of counter to their own goals, and you get a formula for textbook traumatic stress syndrome. Physician's note to Adi: increase the monitors of Byte's signs for mental and emotional stressors. With guidance from both Captain Booker and Maiko, I'm certain we will succeed in our mission here and be out of the system with time to spare. The physician's note to Adi: compare the captain's vitals recordings and pre- and post-op markers, check for anti-HLA and DSAs, schedule Maiko for additional scans for the ship's medical library, schedule time for meetings with Moni to discuss the studies of his people for the same, and log.
All right. So, we had last left off with Byte still in mid-discussion with Governor Blomkamp aboard the ship. However, I'm actually going to be cutting to the rest of the crew, which, or sorry, not aboard the ship, aboard the station of we just have the name of Rusa 6. The Booker and Gerard and Maiko were all seeking a possible place to install a software bypass so that Byte would be able to access the system. So, and I believe that Booker is still outside of the actual meeting area where Byte is speaking with the governor, and Gerard is in mental contact with Byte. So, but Maiko and Gerard are together as they're kind of going on a tour of the green spots of the ship. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
All right. The pair of you definitely get a lot of looks, like every time you pass by a Booker, and you think that's just by virtue of they're just used to seeing Bookers. Like, there's no inherent hostility in it. Does that make sense? In fact, a few of the Bookers look a little bit like they'd like to go up and like pet Maiko, or at least engage her in some way. Whereas Gerard gets a bit more curious looks. So, and the both of you, have significantly different attire than everybody else. So immediately makes a bit of a standout. As for the station itself, it looks like there are myriad like small research spots that are set up, some of which are very conspicuously on display. Does that make sense? Like somebody that looks like they're doing relatively harmless botany work in, increasing outputs of seeds and stuff like that. You can see into their lab from like every direction. Does that make sense? And that's the majority of the kind of style of like the green labs. A few of them are doing some relatively like simple weapons testing. Michael, I'll have you make an intelligence and fix roll as you're kind of passing by some of that.
That's right.
I like your bag too.
Oh, thank you. That's 3d6s, right? I need 3 of them.
Yeah, you get 3d6 in your fix rolls.
Yay! We like that.
You only get to keep 2.
Okay. I have one of my D6s that like hates me, so I had to actually find 4 because the first one I pulled out was like the hateful one. Alright. So I got a 13 on that.
You're fine. So just with a glance, you can tell that the intent is to create a like composite sniping rifle, assault rifle. Does that make sense? Something that could basically like switch modes between the two. And instead of doing something that does both well, they've created something which does both poorly. That technically works, but has a couple of design flaws that you can assess from like through the window. Does that make sense? Largely that firing multiple rounds through the assault mode seems to throw off every calibration of importance for the sniping rifle. And secondarily, the station is simply not big enough to test it adequately. Reasonably testing a sniper rifle would require a long range as well as something that does not have artificial gravity. This place has neither of those qualifications.
Gerard can probably see Maiko like glancing through the window and then like the very beginnings of a little bit of an eye twitch. Like I don't know that she necessarily says anything out loud, but I suspect that Gerard knows Maiko well enough to figure out when she's disapproving of someone else's work.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, Michael just get a gentle nudge on the shoulder. That is meant to be very subtle.
One of the things that you do observe while you're in there, though, is that while you're kind of like passing by, because everything's on like automated conveyor systems, so that nobody has to actually walk. Something which every single booker that's on the station seems to ignore, and just walks anyway as fast as they can. They just get a boost of acceleration from it. But that inside of each of the stations is separate terminal that looks like it's on a different network than the public systems. And so it's quite possibly, Maiko understands enough about system architecture to understand that like those networks are probably going to be connecting to the more useful networks aboard the station than the external ones outside of those labs.
Okay.
So being able to get inside of a lab and install one of the bridges would give Byte the most access.
I don't remember. Do we have like a tour guide, or are we on a self-guided tour?
You have 2 of the guards that are with you. They're like
me.
with you because there's nobody to guard back at your room.
Okay.
There are different non-booker scientists in most of the lab areas.
And like with these walkways, which are hella fun at the airports to like feel like you're walking super fast. So I completely understand why they would continue to walk on the running walkways, on the moving walkways. Anyway, do they have like a place where you can step off of them and look for longer, or can you like stop your section? Or
so if you think of the whole station as kind of like an 8-sided like octagonal shape, the labs are largely situated at the corners and the walkways run the lengths. Does that explanation make sense to everybody?
I can work with it. So Maiko at one of the labs, are there labs that are not working on like guns? Are there labs that are working on other stuff?
There are labs that are working on it, so there's like multiple levels, and you're just kind of on like the starter floor. It looks like some of the conveyors which lead to orange and black level research stuff are going up or down respectively. Does that make sense? So like the top secret clearance stuff is like all down, and like the slightly more risky stuff is up a level. Does that make sense? Everything that is on this level you can see. Like botany, you can see some work that is largely engineering driven. It looks like they're working on some like modular design for starships over in one of the labs. It looks like they're they've got some kind of like miniaturized starship weapons and other systems that are going on in another lab. And this
So
is all stuff that they consider green.
Right. So Maiko's going to like step off the walkway by one of the botany labs and just be like, "Oh my god, look at those melons! Those look delicious!" Like pressing her nose to the glass. Can we see them? Can we see them?
It's a little bit before. Go ahead and make a talk roll real quick for me.
Okay. I need more monitors. What attribute with the talk?
Charisma.
Charisma? Okay. $11.
Okay. Yeah, the one of the two guards, though you can't see his face, you can hear him giggle a little bit. And he lifts his hand and just sort of like pounds on the glass of the door. You see the researcher within sort of like jump and spin around and like look at all of the windows first, and then see Maiko and look very confused for a moment before moving over towards the door and like sliding it open. And the booker kind of gestures and is like, "One of our visitors would like to see your lab. Is this safe to come in?"
I want to see your melons.
And she kind of like blinks very slowly for a minute, and then just sort of like, "Oh, yeah, they're right over this way." And then she's like, "Well, we have some that we're going to be sent over to the dining hall tonight. We're working on producing a seeded melon that produces seedless melons."
And what would be the purpose of this?
It's easier for domestication purposes for commercial use.
I see. So you don't inadvertently expose, say, a new place to this particular melon as a, say, an invasive species.
Well, I hadn't actually considered that. It was mostly for luxury purposes. Some wealthy people, for not to have to spit the seeds out of their fruit.
They're very inconvenient.
And this would remove that step from the process while still creating a seeded variation that we could recognize by the coloration on the outside that can be used for replanting.
And then question for you, DM and or Bite. I didn't really think this entirely through, which is on brand 100%. But do we have like a version of the spike or whatever that Bite needs to use? Like, can Maiko edge over to like next to the terminal while Gerard is talking to the people in the room and like slap something on the bottom of it or something?
It takes about a minute of installation, and there's some wire cutting involved, like wire cutting and crimping together. It's very possible Maiko can do that without looking at it. But ultimately, it's going to be Yeah, I'm going to require both Gerard to make a talk roll just to do the distraction. Does that make sense? And to do it engagingly enough that the two bookers are watching as well. And then Maiko will get to make a stealth roll that she'll have a bonus because we're very high fix on.
And is it possible, like, if Maiko tries to, like, lean down and, like, adjust her shoe or something, can she do it? Can she see under it enough to, like, does she have to, like, do it blind? Because I don't really want to take that penalty. If possible, that I can avoid it.
You can, I will let you make just a straight dex and fix roll, but it will up the difficulty of Gerard's talk roll. Because you're being a little bit more overt about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Roll a 12. Do it.
So basically, here's how it's going to go. The difficulties are 8 and 8. Okay. One of you can raise the difficulty to lower the other ones.
Okay.
But you both have to succeed. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And I'll let you guys call your own difficulties and agree beforehand as to how exactly you want to do that.
We need this spike in place, so raise my difficulty.
Okay.
I'm going to do everything I can to keep all three of them distracted. 3 of them or 4 of them?
There's 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
All 3 of them distracted and engaged in me, the conversation, and the plants that we are examining.
I have faith in Gerard's talk abilities, and I have faith in my fix abilities. So, yeah. So Maiko is going to, kind of sidle up to the side of the terminal, and, like, you said raise your difficulty, right? So she can lean down and kind of not do it blind. And it's a fix roll, right? So I get my...
Yeah, so the difficulty, if Gerard is raising his difficulty to a 10, that'll lower your difficulty to a 6, which is honestly really low for you.
Yeah, that's not bad. Honestly, an 8 isn't bad either. So
if you guys want to keep it as 8 and 8, that's fine too.
Can I see what I roll and then?
No. Nope.
Okay, no, let's go for the 6 just in case my dice are deciding to hate me.
Now you're gonna get a 14.
I'm not mad about it. Okay, so we're doing fix plus fix and intelligence, fix and dexterity.
Fix and dexterity. It's not hard to install. You just need to be fast and quick about it.
Okay. Well, even without bonuses, I got an 8.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So, Gerard, because the difficulty was still raised, you still have a difficulty of 10.
I got a 12. So.
All right. Okay. So yeah, you managed to get the scientists sort of like brought in on like the genetic considerations for, you know, like the crop farming and stuff like that. She's trying to be very pleasant about like not actively saying anything about nobles since the way the two of you are dressed. But the sort of the interplay of that, trying not to be insulting while still talking about the science of it and stuff like that, seems to amuse the bookers, even as they like lose out on some of the science talk. They're just kind of like, something's going on here.
And Gerard will keep up with the science talk, guiding in different directions away from noble fallacies to the intricate details of how they are doing this. Are they cross-pollinating? Are they DNA splicing? Are they using cuttings? Are they creating this through a natural?
Yeah, and just to, I know you're probably not as concerned about the answers, but they are actually, like, this particular botanist seems to be largely working on just very typical patterns of like cross-splicing different plants, you know, stuff that's been around since like monasteries and monks doing this kind of
Right.
work. So, I think it was Mendel who did all the initial genetics description and dominant recessive genes.
There were a couple people that did it, but I think Mendel was the one with the flowers.
Yeah. Well, specifically the monk was what I was meaning, but so you do get it installed, and so now we will cut as the botanist is kind of like, here, give it a try. Tell me what you think. Honestly, I'm a little worried that the flavor is lacking a little bit with our current system.
I'm having a really hard time not making like a joke. So, thank you for cutting away.
All right.
Melons are fine, but what about the bananas and the peaches?
We work on eggplants, yeah. Cutting back to Bite's getting their composure.
I put it in the chat.
Was not expecting it. Just wasn't.
So, you get a beep beep like on your data pad, but you're also still like in mid conversation, and pretending to be a noble who's suddenly distracted by their data pad doesn't work as well as it does for regular Bite.
Yeah. I'm gonna believe that one of them told him not to look at his data pad while he was in this conversation.
It's probably connected to Bite's head, still going, nope.
Yeah, just like, no, I can't do this yet. Can't do this yet. Can't do this yet. I have to get out of this conversation.
The governor says your interest in Sophilike is something that can potentially serve both of us. I have become the governor of this system and find it a needless distraction upon my research. I am willing to sell the necessary mechanisms of control to your house. It's 2 jumps away from the nearest hierarchy system. And I do not believe that it would be difficult to transfer the mechanism of power.
Probably not, no.
In return, I would require a half dozen ships and 10 years of funding for my research.
I believe that should be doable, but let me check with my let me check with
Matriarch.
Yes, my matriarch my matriarch to make sure that that's correct. And that works.
As patrons of my scientific investigations, you will be given first access to my research. However, I must insist that you not seek to direct it. I have spent years under SVS's thumb, forced to come up with product lines which provide proof of profit. They're a waste of my time.
All right. Again, I will need to talk to my matriarch.
Just understand that this is a necessary condition. How long will you need to contact them?
48 hours.
48?
That's actually, it would be longer than that, since they would be expecting any communication to require a trip into hierarchy territory and back.
That's my lack of knowledge of the system.
Yeah, sorry. So there is, just as a broad note, there is no like magical World Wide Web that connects these galaxies apart systems. They largely get their information, whatnot, through ships that are arriving that are just dumping data into their systems. Does that make sense? So there is no like hollow system that could call a different planet. They literally have to basically send a courier to that planet to find somebody and deliver a message.
So what would be the minimum amount of time to expect a courier to go from this location to the location that they're expecting and return?
Conservatively, 2 months.
Add in bureaucracy, tell them 6 months.
He'll look away after hearing Gerard. 4 to 6 months is the fastest we can get someone out there. As long
It's
as
an understandable delay. He says, I wish they had empowered you to make the decision yourself. He says, very well. He says, I will make certain that the quarters are quite comfortable for you to remain while your servants go and deliver the message and await a return.
all right. With that, Bite will do whatever greeting exit he's supposed to do and walk out to find Booker. And I'm just gonna tell you, he's already angry enough that this is out of his like normal range. And he's just trying to keep it in.
Yeah. As a customary exit note from our people, great to meet you.
Yeah, you see the Blomkamp hologram disappear through the door at the moment. Light has stepped out. So the two of you are headed back to the guest quarters, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And Gerard and Micah have just had their first taste of the most like tasteless watermelon that they've ever had. It's like crunchy water.
Mushy, crunchy water. It's not even ice. It's like worse than ice. Okay. And so Maiko theoretically has I don't know how she would inform Gerard that like the eagle has landed or whatever. I think she's gonna like kind of munch on it and be like, "Oh, this is unexpected. Wow."
It's bad, isn't it? She very much kind of cringes, like it's not news to her. She has taste buds.
I can see why it's still in development. I'm quite tired from the trip, though. Do you think we could go back soon? Have you indulged your curiosity? Like, she looks up at Gerard, like, almost like he's the one that dragged her out to this. And she's just, like, at the end of her, like, hummingbird stores of energy or whatever.
Yes, I believe if the young lord has made arrangements for our accommodations, we should be returning then. I'm certain we'll have much more time to explore the depths of this fascinating study.
Thank you so much. She's gonna give the scientist a hug. Thank you so much.
She
Hug
says,
her
well,
leg.
yeah, she kind of gives like there's like a little pat, and then she kind of like runs her hand through Maiko's hair, like just out of curiosity, like she can't resist the temptation. And she's like, thank you for the encouragement. I'm sorry if it was a bit of a disappointment.
I like new things, so we learned a new thing, and I was very excited about it, and I still am very excited about it. I'm excited to see what kind of progress you make.
As you guys are like stepping out, like one of the Booker guards like kind of leans in. He's like, they're really fun for target practice.
Maiko is totally gonna just like hide her giggle like behind her hands and like try not to let the scientist hear it.
Yep. So, Bite and Booker, are you guys talking to each other at all in the way, or just kind of quick stepping back towards the research, or towards the quarters that have been set up for you?
Bite would want to wait until we're somewhere more private.
There will be a quick thing from Booker where he just looks to Bite Just kind of pats on the shoulder. You did good, kid.
Yeah, you get nothing back from Bite right now. He's fuming.
Why is he so mad? Did something happen that I forgot about? Why is he so mad?
Because this evil douche canoe is doing
Unfortunately, the young
evil
lord
things.
had to interact with people.
All right, so we'll assume that everybody gets back to the quarters at around the same time. Booker quick sweep shows that it looks just as soundproofed as it was before you guys left. So
Booker's also going to quickly look around to just look at the ventilation systems if he can. Like, how large are they? Can they fit a Booker inside of them?
they can barely fit a Roomba.
They could probably fit a Myco if they really needed to.
A Roomba.
Roombas are big, dude.
They're about,
But as adorable as Maiko is, I doubt Maiko's Roomba sized.
No.
Also, I doubt Maiko has the steely resolve to stab someone in the throat multiple times.
You don't know that.
Booker somehow still doubts it.
You haven't gotten between Maiko and her melons.
No.
The
I'm
well-
just gonna be worried once peaches are involved.
Myco will definitely not fit in the ventilation system, but you also have a spider-sized Gorgeus with you.
Okay. Looking at how soundproof the room is, because I know that they can kind of catch up with us. They can hear what we're talking about to a degree.
Well, you guys have blocked the visual communication, so I think you guys are completely safe to like talk on the data pads and then cover it with, like whatever you guys are talking about aloud.
Yes. Good showing, young lord. You've shown exactly how to sink this battleship. Space battleship. Spattleship. It's bad. I'm sorry.
I'm assuming
sorry.
you guys can absolutely be playing the cover of some sort of tabletop game while we can have the actual conversation which is occurring on the data pads
Yeah.
going on.
Myco is just loudly like, I need a nap.
Again already?
Are you sure you don't want one of these? And Booker pulls out like a little can of coffee.
Well, maybe just one.
Booker hands you two.
So on the data pad, Myco is going to sort of type in like, I think I installed it correctly, that we should have access to at least mid-level secure network. I don't know how many networks they have on the ship though.
Bite, is there any way you can send logos through the ventilation system to see if we can find exactly where Blomkamp is?
Easily, yeah. That's not a problem.
Use caution. While we were on their so-called green level, the security was strangely lax for... This is their public showing of what they're doing, but it still felt unusually easy for us to do what we needed to do.
That wasn't easy. I'm just good.
My issue with all this is I didn't realize how terrifying this... Can I even call this a human?
Myco will
Is.
reach over and like kind of rub Bite's back and try to like, because she thinks he's like just upset that he had to deal with a person, So she's gonna like reach over and like kind of rub his back and be like, "You did amazing."
And this is also coming from the person that wanted to do this on their own.
Wouldn't have time to talk to people if I'd done it alone.
Logo's kind of like, I can begin searching between the system, but if we have access to where the orange, red, and black zones are, I can prioritize searching certain areas.
He'll probably be in black. He said he's sick.
Do you have access to the ship's or the station's blueprints and layout?
He's gonna see if he can get in now to the system.
So, okay, so the system is still very well designed. So it's going to be a target number 10 roll to access the orange systems, target number 12 to access the red systems, and target number 14 to access the black systems.
Holy crap! Can I help?
Intelligence?
Not on this, you can. Intelligence.
10.
Okay.
Booker points a
the-
gun at it, telling it to do better. Doesn't work.
The red and the black stuff have so much like kind of counter systems that the moment you realize that you're kind of like reaching out from a green lab area to start to go into a red one, security kind of like snaps down suspiciously. Does that make sense? You do get diagnostics for very much most of the station. There are you're not sure whether they qualify as red or black labs, but there are 5 in total on the station. The vast majority are just orange.
Yeah, he'll give that information out. I think what he'll also say to them, at least through the data pad, is like, yeah, although I had to deal with someone today, and I've dealt with trolls in the past, but this was another level.
Rolls. I haven't had to deal with one of those since Saigon 6.
Okay.
Shot it in the lower back. Died pretty quickly.
Why
Right
are
through
you
the spine.
always so grim? So Maiko is going to can via the access that they have, can they tell if anything is monitoring the vents very well?
There's a degree of security that is monitoring them, but it is proportionally built to be as difficult. Like there are actually like black coated drones that do the cleaning in black coated areas
Okay.
that have RFIDs and whatnot that emit particular signal when they're close enough to like allow them access through the vents.
They've like
That same
seen,
RFID.
They've seen too many movies. This whoever
Really
did
have.
their
This is
security
making it difficult.
has watched like Mission Impossible too many times.
They have the person who did their security clearly has not only seen all of the movies, but has like probably done some infiltration themselves.
Probably yelled at the screen a lot too.
Booker is also suddenly, with the information from that, is going, I didn't make this system, did I? It would suck if I did.
So with the access that Byte has managed to pick up, Maiko's going to see if she can send logos through, or work with Byte to send logos through ventilation into one of the more secure areas, so that we can try. I would like to use logos to try to put a spike in the orange system and like work our way in that way.
A thought has occurred to me as well, Booker. Did you notice whether or not the Bookers on this station were they in any sort of advanced armor?
From my remembering as the player, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but they didn't seem to be in any very advanced armor situations. They seemed to be mostly
The
like
secu-
standard fare, especially for the level of armor we saw on combat on the planet versus what we on Sopic on Sopic 6.
Sophalek.
Sopalek. Why did I think Sopic 6? Whatever.
Because you're on
Sopalek.
Rusa 6. So,
Too many sixes.
sorry. Carry on.
But Sopalek, I feel like he would have been looking at the armor that the Bookers here are wearing as less advanced than what were
What-
on the ground.
What I'm looking at is would they have basically some form of IFF of their own for accessing these various zones?
Yes.
And Booker is wondering if they used any sort of biological bioscanner to allow them access to places.
Wouldn't a bioscanner be redundant when you're using clones?
It would also mean that only the clones can get through to places. It means that you don't need to print several ID badges with different IFFs.
So they are not using a system of IFFs. Byte has access to the information of how the security is running, which is that they have a microchip implanted system in scientists, which gives them access to their lab and their like security level. Does that make sense? So even on like the black and the orange levels, an orange scientist only has access to their own lab. They don't have access to every orange lab. Does that make sense? But they also have a permission to be in an orange area. And those who have access, there's only one scientist besides Blomkamp himself who has black access. And he's the only one that is allowed there, aside from the bookers that are cleared for the black areas. Also, the weaponry and the armor that the bookers are wearing is graded by the area that they're in. When they're in the green area, they're kind of allowed to wear like the relaxed fit armor. That's not as intrusive and stuff like that. But when you get to the black areas, they're in like tower armor, which is like hermetically sealed.
How electronic, how computerized is their power armor?
Very.
And
does
how
it
do
send
they
out a signal?
receive
And
their
does it receive signals?
Can we hack their armor?
Potentially. I mean, they're constantly transmitting their location to the system that Byte has access to. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of access as far as what can be done to the power armor. It's more like, your oil is low, go in for an engine checkup kind of thing.
Can we clone the location signal or something like of one of the armor? Oh, we should just.
Could we get one of them
Booker in
to come
there
here?
Yeah, or something like that.
You could potentially, but you could send it a signal that says you need to go for a checkup at this area or that area or something like that.
Yeah. And then would it be at all possible to turn off their oxygen?
No.
Good.
Or to fill their oxygen with some other kind of gas?
No. It would be with a syringe and direct access to their oxygen tank. But they'll probably notice you.
Yeah, and I don't think the oxygen tank is going to be very easy to access.
And if it's a sealed system, it probably has atmospheric scrubbers.
Yeah.
They also have like the equivalent of like heartbeat and bio sign monitors. So like if one of them goes down, it's going to alert the system.
Those could be kept on, is the thing. With Byte's level of access, it sounds like those could be kept on.
They could be spoofed to show them as continuing to operate normally.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to check, what's our goal? What do we want to accomplish exactly? To get to Blomkamp, right?
Seems one of the things we'll need is access to the Black Zone.
if he's actually as sick as he says he is, and even if he's lying, he's going to be in the most secure section. He's nuts.
And if he is actually sick, Booker does heavy emphasis. Like to the point that you can feel the air quotes coming off the data pad.
I believe that they just call those quotes.
Booker's
Because
finding
but
his
they
very
are-
first emojis.
Oh yeah, but they're quotes to the point where their quotes are quoted and quoted quotely.
Booker is totally that guy that sends text with a million punctuation marks. Like, there's 6 sets of quotes. There's 15 exclamation points. He's the one that uses, like, just you instead of YOU. He's that guy.
I am not. I am the guy that types in YOU. Everything sounds incredibly formal while he's typing.
There
But
is
it's sick.
There is one other option to keep in mind and consideration, that who we are dealing with is not a living entity. It is entirely possible we're dealing perhaps with another AI. And that is the reason for the quarantine.
If
After all, there's only one individual allowed in that zone besides the good doctor.
Can we figure out which doctor is allowed in that area?
Their resume is actually like on the system.
Oh, great.
So is the resume of like all of the orange systems, which kind of paints a picture in and of itself. The scientist who works in the black area is a genetic virologist. Did you have something, Micah?
Just wondering if it looks like they're developing a virus or developing.
You just have a resume.
Cure.
With the resume, does it seem more warfare oriented or does it seem more scientifically inquiry oriented in the ways that like what schools they went to, what accomplishments are listed on their resume?
Just ask them about their thesis, honestly. They'll talk for hours and you'll get all the information you want.
I'm actually going to have Gerard make a intelligence and heal roll to do an analysis of his credentials. I am certain to a point for Bite and Micah it just becomes like
Yeah.
7.
Okay. So it looks like the majority of his work prior to coming aboard the station was entirely theoretical, as he worked exclusively on at one of the universities on the planet side. He's never even left this system. As for the kinds of work that his thesis is about, it's specifically about developing isolating genetic markers that indicate likelihoods of psychic ability.
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
He's looking to he was developing theories for genetic markers that were tied to psychic ability.
Ugh, he's actually doing what he says he's doing.
Which leads me even further to believe he's actually alive. He's fine.
The 3 scientists that are working in inside of the orange areas are all also disease experts, but their practical expertise is hands-on. They've worked in like stopping epidemics. They have worked in developing cures for epidemics. And they have a fairly wide range of experience. So, however, what's interesting is that there are 4 orange labs. Each of them has a separate orange lab assigned to themselves, and they also have a shared orange lab.
I find it hard to believe that people who've worked, their whole lives trying to cure diseases are now engineering one. So
I don't think they're engineering. I think they're trying to cure friggin' crazy pants and then figure out a way how to give a pill to make people psychic or psionic or whatever the word is.
well, they want
Very
their.
dangerous.
Sorry, Gerard. What?
That's very dangerous.
Seems maybe not super great on the scale of great to not great.
The resumes that have been included, do those include the ones for bookers and their combat experience?
There's no significant listing. Like, there are a handful of the bookers that have gotten promoted to sergeant and like their accomplishments. You know what I'm saying? They're mostly the ones that are on like the black details, like switching in and out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One of them runs the security detail as a whole aboard the station, and literally their combat experience is that booker has killed 1 person.
Hey, can we see? Are we able to locate any of the propaganda around the original Booker? Can we view like one of the propaganda
Yeah,
videos?
absolutely.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Mike was totally like, "Hey, look what I found."
Okay, so the first one is actually a propaganda that's sort of more like support the SBS and whatnot with like it's like it's marked as propaganda. In the first one you open, it's actually like totally cheesecake Booker advertising something, like shirtless, oiled up.
Is this Booker or Booker clone?
This is Booker
is this
clone. Like,
okay? So
posing
it's not Booker Prime, but it's Booker Light. Booklet.
Yes, but it's
How-
I'm not claiming that I'm being very honest. I stole that from chat.
I like Booker Light. And in no small coincidence, it's actually like for a light beer.
Booker Light. Taste the Patriot.
Beefcake Booker.
Oh yeah, of course.
Harlequin romance cover style Booker.
Yeah,
absolutely.
like shirtless. Mi amor, you are so beautiful. I cannot say into words that I need to be saying the things.
Shirtless, definitely did like 200 sit-ups before the commercial was shot. So okay, so the other propaganda videos are first off, they're very much casting SBS as this sort of like corporation on the cusp of being a great nation state, you know what I'm saying? And that it's going to bring equality and meritocracy to the people. And Booker is cast in it as sort of, the seminal hero who gave his life for SBS to have its chance at greatness. You know what I'm saying? It makes no mention that he was originally a clone or anything like that. It's very suggestive that he was just, willfully recruited into the SBS, and so driven by their passions and their virtues that he put his life on the line for them.
Bullshit.
This doesn't sound at all like you, Booker. It sounds just
No, I was kidnapped as a child. This is weird.
better. Sounds better. This is a better story than yours.
Of course it is.
I think this book.
They had writers. Mine had light. Mine had life.
Jerome, if you have to say anything about the revolution and everything that you were a part of, it's that they were much better at propaganda than this. Much better at both subtlety and genuinely tugging heartstrings. This is the corporate PR version of how they think propaganda is supposed to look. And it definitely lacks the human touch.
What am I thinking? It's the over the Pacific.
They're also not dealing with a society that may love them one moment and turn on them the next.
I'm picturing Sherrod like viewing these and being like, ugh, amateurs.
Less amateur, more simple.
The thing that you can definitely recognize from it, though, this is designed as propaganda for the in-group, not as a recruiting tool, but to maintain the loyalty of those who've already bought in. And it's designed to be simplistic because they view those that are in that as simplistic. This is propaganda by bookers for bookers, basically. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Booker died to protect your freedom and the great taste of zero calorie, zero sugar book light. Sorry.
Booker died to maintain your freedom and to give you his genetic coding.
And your choice of popular beverages.
All right.
So sending logos through the vents? Are we
Yes. Okay.
Are we doing that?
Now that logos, so is there a specific area that you're trying to get logos to?
If Maiko tells Bite about how there's, you said 4 orange that all have their own labs, but then there's a central lab that they go to.
There's 3 separate labs and 1 combined lab for the oranges.
I'm thinking that we would have the best luck if we went for that centralized lab. Because they should be able to access, it might be password protected if they're siloed like that, but they should be able to access their own labs from that central lab. Whereas the individual labs may not be able to access the other labs or any other area. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So because you already have access to the orange, you're gonna have to like basically hack Logos's way through everything.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Right now he's putting on a very convincing Roomba impersonation. It's like they're cleaning drones. But you're still gonna need to provide him the RFID cover. However, because you already have access to the green system, I'm gonna lower the difficulty to a 10 instead of the 12. It's been for the Or sorry. Let me rephrase. You have unlimited access to the orange stuff. This is for the red labs. I've been there's like 12 orange labs. There's the 3 and 1 red labs.
Oh.
So it goes green, orange, red, black, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
We have
Okay,
access
I
to
was
green
doing that
and
wrong.
orange.
Yes, you have unlimited access to the green and the orange stuff. You have you'll have a lower difficulty getting access to the red stuff and a slightly lower difficulty getting access to the black stuff now. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So,
If you get access to the red by installing another bridge, then it will make the access to the black easier.
that
Because
was
you
my
basically
assumption.
provided
Okay.
multiple, factor
That's why I was
authentication.
That's why
Sorry,
I was confused.
I messed up the color scheme. So
Now what you were saying makes so much more sense.
sorry about
I'm
that.
so sorry.
No, that was absolutely my bad. I just spaced it. So, okay, so you're looking to get access to the combined red lab, and it'll be a diff 10 for that role now.
Okay.
Can you give the puppy a pet for me, please?
Well,
Awesome. Okay, so you guys, you see Logos's camera snap on, and you see him like scuttle in through the door as one of the scientists goes in. The scientist kind of looks down, looks at it, doesn't seem to like think twice, like that looks different than the other cleaning droids, or and it just assumes it's a droid it hasn't seen before. Um, and they begin going about their business. They're definitely doing something that is disease related. Gerard, I'll give you a heal roll to start to like decipher it. As Logos is discreetly doing his best to install the bridge.
9.
Um, he, uh, so the scope of the work that is going on here looks like it is actually intending to cure a disease. Um, once once Logos gets up and begins accessing the system, he's directly like putting a port into it and also like working to he's basically serving as the bridge himself since he can't carry a bridge since it's large enough. But giving you guys direct access to it. The disease that they are working on looks like it originated in a system that you have passed through. On the planet Ramses, which was in the system where the miners were. It was the planet that had been quarantined.
Wait. So he's sick with what was quarantined?
They say that the original point of origin for the disease that's noted in the records is from the planet Ramses. Does that make sense?
We all got the hell away from.
Yes.
And avoided going to. That the Okar people are from.
No. The Okar was from the system after that.
Ah, never mind.
This you guys never sat down. You're like, there's a quarantine for disease. Nope.
No, but there's something else going on there besides a disease.
I was wondering if that was a coincidence that we had just passed by a diseased planet and now this dude is diseased, but like I was like, nah, no, that's not.
It's also not a coincidence that we passed through a system that was creating very strong psychic emanations of some sort. And this individual, if I'm understanding what he's told quite correctly, is looking for a cure to psychics.
It didn't sound like a cure. It sounded like a way to copy the psychic gene and give it to anyone.
And potentially genocide the people that it doesn't work for. I did not see that coming.
Even the ones it does work for. This does not seem to be research into MES.
Yeah, this particular research that you're looking into is not MES related. Instead, it is a give me a second, I have to look at that term real quick. Okay, so the actual term for the disease is a prion. It's a particular type of plague that the characteristics of it is the extremely long time before it begins to show any kind of symptoms. In this case, they are estimating that the time to symptom development is close to 18 months. Which when you're talking about something for the purposes of like infecting a planet or multiple sectors, you need something that people won't isolate quickly.
Or something that takes a very long time to figure out what it's doing, yeah.
Yeah, well, if people don't have symptoms, they don't go to a doctor. They don't check in.
Seek treatment.
They don't seek treatment. 18 months of no, I was there and I feel fine. You know, that's more than enough time for most people to be convinced that they are not sick. The prion works through neural degeneration. What happens is that over the course of time, the person becomes basically a prisoner of their own body. They lose the ability to control their limbs. Most of their critical functions continue to work, like to keep them breathing, they can still eat. They'll continue to pump blood throughout their body for a period of up to 12 years, requiring constant care throughout that time. Oh, sorry, there's a question that was asked in the chat of like, what does MES mean? And MES is the term for the like psychic ability. They have, I don't remember what the acronym stands for just right now.
Many extrasensory superpowers?
No, it's multidimensional extroversion syndrome.
Yes, thank you. So, the prion is the external symptoms for other people is that it seems as though people become more and more disengaged and then stop moving. Does that make sense? It becomes harder for them to like show emotion, either in their face or in their voice. And then it becomes the complete neurological collapse of the body. There's a note in one section of it that, like, as seen on Ramesses, the toll on the society is crippling. Within a few months of the disease beginning to like come out of its gestation period, the entire population was involved in caring for the sick.
That sounds horrifying.
Yeah. And then so there's no actual like particularly fatal link in it. Does that make sense? But what they do have is that eventually they just like starve. If the body's processes aren't automated and there's no one to care for them, that's what kills them.
Now, what is, if any, the ties or links of this to psychic powers?
There aren't any that are noted.
So why this obsession over the psychic condition if this is what they're researching?
Gerard, there's no way that this disease causing the metadivisional extroversion syndrome forcibly causing this metadimensional extroversion syndrome just causes the bodies to no longer function due to the mental space taking up so much time trying to deal with and cope with the psychic abilities. I'm saying that wrong.
No, MES destroys the neurological process, creates feedback. It's what caused the screening, or at least in theory. But this seems to be completely unrelated, yet we're seeing this obsession with psychic phenomenon even on this station. You remember the signs. If you see something, say something.
Yeah.
Now, there is a high level of security here that could play into that. But I've seen worlds that don't have the need for this level of security that have almost exact verbiage wording on watching for psychic activity.
So there's a note in one of the scientist logs that was like sent to the others. It's just an email that you kind of see as you're like going through everything. That one of the scientists asks, who would create something like this? And the reply back is like, that's outside of our focus. Our job is to find a cure.
Whoever wrote that was an idiot.
So it seems it was created and didn't evolve. I mean, because there are natural prion diseases that exist.
I'll have Gerard make a knowledge and heal check.
And
So some of the research points extremely strongly towards portions of the prion having been spliced together.
artificial. Kind of like the melon.
That was really bad melon.
You ate what was here?
Yeah. I mean,
It could be just a leap in logic and my paranoia kicking in. But it's generally the same technology that they're using.
And you said that was it was the worst watermelon you've ever had.
it was really bad.
Is it... Gerard, can you check yourself and Maiko for that same prion?
It'd be easy enough to do if I had access to a medical scanner.
They're actually expecting you guys to leave.
There's your answer. Wait a minute.
You're leaving with us, though, right?
No, they're expecting the emissary to stay here until they get their answer.
You guys told me to hold him off by saying something about the matriarch, and when he asked me time, I said the correct time, and he said, all right, send your people away, and you'll be staying here for the 4 to 6 months.
Well,
I don't know how likely he expects you to stay alone.
I mean, Booker can stay with you for a while.
no, when we're done here, you'll simply return to your ship to get the things that you need and leave system without returning. It's a simple way of getting away. But until that point, you need to continue playing the role as if you will be staying.
All right.
There's a knock on the door.
Who's supposed to go get it?
I will.
Oh
It's definitely
literally my job to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely like loud enough that you suspect it's a Booker on the other side.
Oh, my lord, you won again.
What is it?
The Booker on the other side says, if you would like some grocery deliveries so that you can prepare food for yourselves, we'll need a list of what you require. If not, you're welcome to join us in the gallery for dinner. It begins in half an hour.
How does it sound to my lord and my lord's entourage?
We have a chef in here, don't we?
You had one when you first came in, but I think Booker kicked him out.
Yeah.
At some point.
What would you like, my lord? We have a chef on staff here that they provided. Or we can join in the gallery.
looking at you guys for like help. You're like, what do I do? 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 What do I do?
Like protocol wise, would emissaries like don't tend to mingle too much, do they, Siosa, or what do you think?
It could go either way. Like an emissary who's very curious, like it would absolutely be rude to turn down like a private dining invitation.
Yeah.
But this is an invitation to eat with the crew of the station.
Booker writes down a list of ingredients, hands it over.
Sorry, is he going for anything that he thinks is like going to be particularly hard to acquire?
He's asking for some basic meat proteins, some flour, some access to water, some vegetables, and some.
We're having fried chicken.
No, that's not what he was thinking.
Flour plus meat protein. I know what that equals.
He was going to make dumplings again.
The booker kind of looks at it and he's like, we don't have any shrimp on station, but I think we just got a shipment of crab.
Excellent, that'll do. And whatever raw fish you can bring me, what's in season.
Freshwater? See.
Make sure you add some proper spices to that. Paprika, garlic.
You and I eat things differently. I also need this rice, the meat, and just gives you like it's a list of things that look, to all intents and purposes, a little Japanese. He does ask for some of the specific spices that Gerard asked for, but he's not putting them in anything.
He's like, don't tell me how to cook.
I don't ask you how to heal up wounds. You don't ask me how to cook.
Oh, Moshe, I need to teach you how to make gumbo.
Well, you make your gumbo sometime. I will make my raw fish and delicious food.
Then don't
Not to
forget
say gumbo isn't bad, but I've just not. Yeah.
Anyway.
Fresh wasabi root. We don't want any of the horseradish.
Yeah, the booker takes the list and, like makes the notes on it.
Okay. Yeah, so Maiko's gonna lean in and kind of murmur to Bite, like, she doesn't mind if this is overheard, like, if you're curious about the people that are on this station, we can go to dinner with them, or if you find yourself worn out after your conversation with the director, we would be happy to stay in.
I'd much rather just stay in.
As you wish.
Also, I need this selection of knives.
The booker's already gone.
Kitchen. The kitchen. There are probably knives in the
He's checking the kitchen to see.
It's well staffed. They don't care about you having knives.
Proper kinds.
Someone's
Cool.
in the kitchen with Booker.
Logos sends a message to the data pads that says, I have completed downloading the red system structure. I won't have active updates, but I can remove the link. Also, I have just seen scientist Rasmussen, the black grade scientist, heading out of his lab.
Follow if you can. Just be careful is what he sent back.
Logos, in the direction he's going, is he going towards the dining hall?
Yes.
A bitch.
Then Booker turns to Gerard and Maiko. We've asked enough of Bite for now. Would you two
Absolutely.
be so kind as to check on the good
Yes.
doctor?
100%. Maiko is clearly excited.
Booker is going to look over at Maiko and go, those cans of coffee I gave you are empty, aren't they?
I don't know what cans you're talking about.
Okay, well, here's another two, just in case.
You're going to just recaffeinate the small, excitable crew member.
Exactly.
You could still have, you know,
And
the
then
logos,
Booker hands a couple to Gerard as well.
Not that I need them. We still don't know what the effects of the chemicals in this have on Michael or her people.
It's a basic low-level stimulant. Should be fine.
secretly her body
It's-
just totally processes the stimulant, but she likes the taste so much she gets excited every time.
It's really, really good.
Booker, so is cacao, and yet it kills dogs.
You're right.
Chocolate killed somebody?
All right.
Anyway, let's go.
Just watch carefully. I mean, it's not like I'm letting her into my cocaine. Come on.
You have cocaine?
Why?
Basic soldier supplies.
All
Standard
right.
issue.
Logos breaks off the. He says the scientist is breaking off towards the galleon as he's following him. You do have a view of the scientist before, you know, he breaks off. He looks like, okay. Have you ever like seen somebody that you just know is going to be like high anxiety and startle easily just by posture and expression alone? Does that
Booker
make
looks
sense?
at Bite. He's lost like most of his hair. It doesn't look like he's done much to like maintain the sides and the back that he does have in like several months. He also definitely kind of has like the physicality of somebody who is being reminded to eat on a regular basis. Booker looks again at Bite. Minus
Um,
the hair loss, but still.
Blink twice if
and-
you need help, dude.
And as like Maiko and Gerard kind of come into the galley isn't lively. The bookers get louder the more of them are together, and the gallery is like social. So they're sort of excited by like whatever's on the buffet that day. There's a sort of permissive rowdiness as you see like two of the bookers kind of like starting a watermelon fight with each other after trying the watermelon. So they found a successful use for it. But you see that most of the scientists are already segregated. Does that make sense? They have like their own tables. The bookers don't really go over and enjoy them. And this one scientist like sits apart even from them.
So Maiko's gonna go right up to him and go up to his table and be like, "Hi, you're sitting by yourself and nobody likes to sit by themselves, so I'm gonna sit with you. Is that okay?" "That's okay." And she's gonna like sit down without waiting for an answer.
And he does the there is a tiny person talking to me. Check around.
"Hi,
And then like
what's your name?"
That's fine. He says, I'm Dr. Rasmussen.
"Dr. Rasmussen? What are you a doctor of?"
He says, virology and epidemiology.
"Oh, are you helping that poor man try to find a cure?"
He says, you're talking about Governor Blomkamp?
"Yes."
He says, no, that's a separate project.
"Oh,
My work is much more theoretical.
what does that mean?"
Says it means that it's largely, he says, computerized projections. He says not that actually working with any models. He says, or any hands-on. I'm not really supposed to talk about it too much. He kind of like, looks around a little suspiciously, like around the room. You know what I'm saying? He says, can I duel one of those, but not a Gorin, the other ones?
What? Wait, what was the first part? I didn't catch it.
He says, you're not a Gorin, one of the other ones.
Oh no, definitely not a Gorin.
He
They're
says the name has eluded me. He says, but your species is quite hardy, as I understand.
yeah, I mean, I think so. We can put up with more than the average bear. Bear, right? That's the saying. I I think I heard about a bear one time, and like I almost saw one in a zoo one time. But have you ever seen a bear?
I'm not very good with idioms.
Oh, what's an idiom?
It's a saying that everyone is supposed to understand the meaning of. It says, but
Colloquial
isn't
metaphor.
literal. It says a colloquial metaphor, linguistic expression. He kind of starts just dictionary definition of it.
Oh, okay. All right. Gosh, did I use one of those? So Maiko's gonna like keep him talking and try to get him to drop tidbits of his research or like whatever she can. Like, if she can like kind of get stuff to piece together, that's great. But if not, then she's just gonna establish like a chatty relationship with the dude.
I will have you go ahead and make a charisma and talk roll.
While Michael's doing this, I'm going to see if I can get into his head and kind of get that surface. What is he thinking? And see if we can follow his thought train.
Does he have a mental save for that?
That's what I'm double checking. The initial contact, I need to spend effort.
I rolled a 19 if he has a mental save. So that I think that is a save.
I'm just double checking. Emotional. It's emotion.
And then real quick, for the talk is it charisma?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yes. To get to his cognitive thoughts, that he does get a mental saving throw to resist.
Okay. So yeah, you get a brief touch to his mind, and it's almost impossible to make out surface thoughts because he has so many thoughts going on at once. Like the combination of being extremely intelligent, very occupied in his work, and highly anxious, and being engaged with by somebody who's very talkative, like it's like the streams are all crossed.
It's a 10 on the talk roll, by the way.
It at least confirms that the outward appearance matches the inner monologue, so to say.
I'm actually going to give you one other thing for it, just because you spent the effort on it too. He's living in like if absolute terror was 100 on a scale of 0 to 100, you know what I'm saying? And somebody living in like a dangerous part of a city was like a 50, this guy's living at like a 75. It's hard to say how much of that is just anxiety, you know what I'm saying? But
right, and how much is actual risk?
yes. Okay, so what did you get on your talk roll, Maiko?
I forgot. Hang on.
Say again.
I
10?
said I forgot, but it was a 10.
Okay, so he's not used to people like just wanting to be friendly with him. Does that make sense? And he's genuinely afraid of like talking too much about his research. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And you're actually able to pick up guilty about it.
Guilty about talking or
Guilty about the research he's doing.
So originally Maiko came on pretty strong, like, and just immediately did her thing, which was like da 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 da. But as she gets more of a feel for him, she's gonna start like kind of letting him talk a little bit less and telling like stories and trying to kind of entertain him that way. And trying to be a little bit circumspect about getting him to talk about himself, and doing her best to be like reassuring and entertaining and like not making him talk too much. I mean, she's still trying to get him to talk about like, I don't know, his past or anything that seems like relevant, but she's she's doing it with like anecdotes and like, you know, one time I read about this school that does this, and like, did you ever hear of a school like that? What kind of school did you go to? How did you grow up? Like, stuff like that.
Yeah, so academia seems to be both sort of like a fondness and like a nostalgia for him.
Oh,
Does that
good.
make sense? One of the things that I'll let you both make wisdom and notice rolls while you're talking to him.
Mhm.
Um,
8.
Uh, 7.
Okay, so Gerard is definitely picking up that. So he has a nervous tick that whenever his anxiety starts to rise, he starts to rub at a particular spot on his hand, and it takes a moment to realize like that is where the chip was inserted. Does that make sense? And he rubs at it in the same way somebody in a prison might like tug at a collar, or like worry at a handcuff, because he has the same psychological relationship to it. But he talks about academia. He talks about like he was like, you know, he was a professor. He loved doing his like research work. He was the most terrible lecturer in the history of his university, as far as he's concerned. You know what I'm saying? Just like he actually like starts breaking out into like a little bit of like face sweat when he talks about lecturing to students. um, but you can quickly piece together that he's the kind of academic that was doing the sort of stuff that the university wanted to have academics for. Does that make sense? Like that they would make space and kind of push his classwork and stuff onto other professors so that he could continue doing research, writing papers. You get what I'm saying? Like this is a genuinely brilliant person who, you know, is here and does not seem to, you know, he might have come willingly, but you have the impression that he was brought willingly under false pretenses and now has no way out.
Can we adopt him? How do we adopt him? Let's see. So Maiko's going to continue to ask him more about okay, like this is totally stereotypical, and from my science background I know it's probably going to get him talking a lot, but she's literally going to ask him about his like research and his particular specialties. I mean, I'm prepared that we're going to be there for about 6 hours, because when you ask somebody about their research, that's how long you have to dedicate to it. But basically she's inviting him to like info dump on her.
Yeah, he talks about that his research was very specifically in sort of how am I going to put this? So his research was specifically on the relationship between different planets' environments and the spread of viruses. Does that make sense? And the evolution of viruses inside of different terraforming climates and planets and things like that. And so he's, you know, is from the perspective of if we know how viruses evolve differently in different climates, we'll understand the mechanisms of disease better overall. And we'll be more, you know, we'll also not be like running into the same risks of genetic collapse in the face of a single disease or whatnot. So and he's kind of like mid-sentence when his like watch beeps, and he kind of looks down at his food, which is almost completely untouched as he's been involved in talking. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, this has been very pleasant, but I need to go.
But you haven't finished your dinner.
Yeah, that happens from time to time. Then he turns and he starts to head towards the door.
Oh, so she'll scoop up his plate and start to follow him.
So, no,
Here,
no,
let me help you.
you can't. I can't take that into my workplace.
She's looking. Then you need to finish it, obviously.
It's like it was very nice to meet you. Kind of backs through the door. And looks like a little bit more lonesome than he did when he came in.
Okay, so Maiko's gonna set the plate aside, and what the hell? She's gonna follow after him anyway.
Yeah, and he takes the first stairwell up that heads towards the black area, and you see, like, as you're getting to the top of the conveyor, you know what I'm saying? There is immediately 2 power armored guards that step in the way.
Maiko's totally just like, will you just make sure that he eats, please?
You do not have clearance to be here.
No, can you just, I just want to, he didn't eat.
You do not have clearance to be here.
I'm not,
And he points to the stairwell, or he points to the walkway back down.
Can you just make sure he eats? I just want to make sure he's okay. She's giving him the biggest puppy eyes.
Yeah, and you see the scientist kind of notices, and he turns around and kind of sees her, and like his eyes go wide with alarm. You know what I'm saying? And he kind of comes back. It's like, she means very well. And you see one of the guards turn and puts his hands like on his arm, and like you see the power arm close enough that you can almost hear bones bending. Does that make sense? And he's like, "Get to your lab." And he pushes him backwards, and you see the scientist kind of like stumble back. He's like, "Oh, I'll get something to eat. I promise. After I get off my shift, just go."
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh. And Maiko is just gonna like kind of hold up her hands and like kind of try to go backwards down the stairs. Probably doesn't do it very well in her little heels and stuff, but like is like kind of very obviously like, I didn't mean any harm. Like, was just totally like sorry. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So sorry. Like.
Yeah. You can see like is she actually going back down the steps and like apologizing as she goes?
Yeah. Backwards, like kind of trying to make her way.
There's no visible reaction. They are like stone faced. I mean, they have helmets on, which makes it easier to be stone faced. But like, there's no like physical tremors. There's no ticks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I just rolled a die to see if like she can make it down the stairs backwards, and I got a 5. So she manages to get down the stairs and kind of scurries back to the dining room, I guess, or back to her people, wherever everybody is.
that would be up to Gerard if he's coming out or staying in the galley or just doing something else during that.
I would have been following because it's Maiko, and the chance of her accidentally getting herself shot by going the wrong direction is fairly high. And we need to make sure.
Maiko gets to the bottom of the stairs and just gives Gerard kind of a guilty look and a shrug.
You've actually done well. You may have found a chink in their security.
We should get back to check on Lord Green, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Immediately.
She's obviously like not sure what he's talking about, like, so she's like kind of confused and is just like, okay, let's go. Clearly not picking up what he's putting down.
Okay.
If you guys make your way back to the room, I have a fun thing.
All right.
Yes. And Maiko comes in and is kind of like really quiet and kind of shaken looking. Concerned. She has concerned face.
Yeah, Booker is going to look at both you and Gerard and kind of ask, did you guys eat while you were there, or just recon?
I didn't eat. And I don't think Maiko took breath long enough to put food into her mouth.
All right,
So-
well, talk about what we have. sit and eat. And Booker puts down a very nice Japanese dinner in front of you that you can see on our Discord.
Bite, a message pops up from Logos on the datapad that says, "How quickly can you get access to the Black system?"
I mean, I can try.
You have 120 seconds.
All right, let's go.
You see, like, Logos like scurrying behind the scientist.
11.
Okay. With the information you have from the red system and the orange system, you managed to get Logos's RFID tag to work for just the second half long enough for him to scurry through the door.
You. They would probably just see Bite like freak out, like start typing, see it worked, and just yes.
Right, now eat. It'll get too cold.
Booker, I think it's already cold.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be. I said too cold. Just get to it. And Booker's also laid out chopsticks for you, and is horrified as you look at, and has a horrified expression on his face as you use a fork.
She's
I
totally
actually
using a
have to.
spoon. She's just got a spoon and she's like scooping up.
Slightly less horrified expression.
Bite tries.
As Gerard picks up the chopsticks and very expertly starts using them.
You guys will see, on the little like camera from Logos, you see the scientist, like, he goes into his lab and he like pops open a med kit and he takes out like it looks like a syringe and loads it with some painkillers and puts it into his arm. And kind of, he's like wringing his hand, and it's hanging a little bit like loosely at his side, as he moves over and he like opens up some screens. He's working at a very high level of like genetic resequencing, and he's also not really bothering to like stop and transcribe notes. Does that make sense? It's like he's the only one he's working with, so he doesn't have to make it understandable to anybody else. But I will still give you a know and heal roll, or sorry, an int and heal roll to like decipher what exactly it is that he's working on.
Is Chiron doing that?
13.
Okay. So,
The best thing Booker would have been able to do would have been a survive roll.
So, the scientist kind of like sits down in front of it, and you see him, he takes like a very heavy breath and he starts to work on it. And as you're watching him like work through it, you can begin to kind of note like connective tissue between different like disease types and stuff like that. You realize that the specific DNA markers that he's working with are isolated as being genetic markers from his own research, but that have instead been taken to, this is indicative of psionic potential. Does that make sense? Like, this is the most likely gene to indicate whether somebody can become psychic at all. The thing is that gene still requires double recessive for expression of psychic abilities. But the virus that he's working on is designed to kill anybody who has it, recessive or not.
Oh my.
Are you okay?
They're using the prion as a template. Does that make sense? The other disease that they're busy trying to cure, they're using the prion as a template to create something with the aim of spreading through the entire sector before displaying any symptoms. And then instead of a long, slow neural withdrawal, it's brain death inside of 48 hours. The specific mechanism by which it would kill psychics is somewhat different than the mechanism by which it would kill non-psychics. in that the method that which it would kill psychics is it would basically make them unable to regulate the psychic energies. Like all of the training that their brains have done so that they don't torch out, they're basically going to torch out or go insane overnight. And it's going to wipe out anybody who has the gene that can make more psychics. Conservatively, that's 66% of the population.
So Maiko is looking at the look on Gerard's face and is just sort of like doing her thing where she reaches over and kind of rubs his shoulder.
How bad is it?
We're talking about something that goes beyond genocide.
Yeah. Okay.
They're working on something that will wipe out 2/3 of the population just on the possibility they might produce someone who is psychic.
This guy really doesn't like.
And that's a conservative estimate.
Booker, can you think of why he would hate psychics so much?
You can see Booker's already armored up.
Booker, no.
You going somewhere, bud?
As much as I really don't like whoever this monster is, we can't go in guns blazing.
We have to figure out where he is first.
That's the first part.
Margos, how long will that take to determine?
And the worst part is, based on what I'm seeing, if this works the way they want to, even non-psychics are going to be affected, not because they have the gene, but if it creates an artificial screen, psychics losing control of their abilities at random, devastation that would cause.
That was the scream, right? That's what happened, right?
The scream killed or made mentally unstable every individual with psychic gifts at that time.
Would
And
this
cut off all connection to Earth.
Yeah. What about people who aren't psychic?
If they possess what they have identified as the gene markers of the potential for psychic ability, this disease will kill them within 48 hours.
Booker is looking at the map of the location, trying to ferret out essentially a dead zone, a spot that doesn't appear on the map. Something that should be there, given the architectural design of the place, but isn't.
This information needs to get to the Swan. And this station needs to cease to exist.
There are a lot of people on this station. They're
We
all
don't.
Booker.
We also don't have
but-
the fire. We also don't have the firepower to take it all out at once. That's what we'd need.
And the problem is if Blomkamp,
Blomkamp.
whatever,
Just call
If
him
he's-
Dick Wad. It's easier for everyone.
if he's even here. Which I'm not even sure.
He's not. He's a little too vain to not be near what he would be considering his greatest triumph.
Well, how close is the doctor to finishing what he's doing, Gerard?
Can I get an estimate on how close they are to completing this?
3 to 4 months, and you actually believe that the doctor's been working on it has been considerably stalling. Like, watching him work, you actually think that there's a couple puzzle pieces that he's keeping out of the equation deliberately. Does that make sense? And that if he was motivated, he might be able to complete it in a matter of weeks. But that at his current rate, months.
Question. It can be completed in a few weeks.
I don't
It
understand.
looks like with the pathways he's doing his work several months. And that's it's a guess on my part that he's purposely delaying his work. But if he's found out,
Damn it. I have an idea.
Logos says over the datapad, I've bridged with the black drive. You should have access now.
Good D. So Bite's gonna pull up that information. And look for Blomkamp there.
There are 2 black points. One of them is the lab that Logos is inside, and the other one is on the uppermost level with most security. And when you open it up, it's actually, you're expecting maybe a lab or maybe like a living area. Instead, it is a medical suspension tank. Blomkamp is floating inside of it, and Gerard can instantly recognize all of the physical external signs of the prion disease that lost physical control. He's at the final stage of infection.
Of the disease that he's developing?
Not
no,
the disease he's developing, the one that was found on the other planet, the one that creates the neurological degeneracy.
they're looking to splice their created disease to that one to hide the markers. So even if it is discovered, the wrong virus will be treated. By the time anyone figures out what is happening, the damage it's going to do will be done.
This hurts my head.
Do you want something that'll hurt your head a little less?
But
Yes?
Go
I
ahead.
need 2 things. One, I need however many EMPs you can make in the next day or 2. And 2, what do you think would happen if the doctor who is stalling were to take the doctor we just met were to take some of the prime genetic material of a booker and create a disease or a virus or even a biological agent that targets that specifically?
no, that would put you in danger.
Yeah,
I
that
know.
would kill you, wouldn't it?
We'd work something out.
So that's something that'd still be like months in development.
Yeah, that
It'll be
Yes.
months in development? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because they'd be starting scratch from genetic markers that they're working on.
Yeah.
I want to pull up
The Booker's going to throw that idea, but
I want to pull the information I have up on Booker from the tests that I've been running on him. I want to compare his genetic markers to the ones we just saw.
No, he specifically doesn't carry the psychic recessive gene.
That's exactly what I was looking for. That is why their army are Booker clones. So
they
that
would
their
be
army
immune.
the
They would be
disease.
safe.
So not only would they, and I use this word in the worst possible ways at this point in time, purify this sector, but the only standing army would be their own.
And the only ones that would be able to, and they'd be carriers for whenever they go off to fight another army.
Ugh. Okay, wait. Existing prions, what's the transmission route like? Because they're really not that contagious otherwise, right?
This one, the one that was originally found planetside, that is now infecting Blomkamp, had a number of transmission. Sex, blood, air, sweat were all workable vectors.
Well, it definitely wasn't sex. I know Blomkamp well enough for that. Boom!
All right. We need a few moments to regroup our thought process and plan our next steps very, very carefully.
And that seems like a good place to drop the curtain.
Oh, Booker will also have handed Maiko a few other ideas on a sheet. This will be for potentially cast to know and be revealed to audience later.
All right. I wanted to thank everybody for coming out and watching the show. I want to give everybody a chance to let the audience know how to find them. So we will go with Sarah first.
It really wasn't ready. Yeah. Okay. So hey, my name is Sarah. I run Tango Productions over on YouTube. I'm also working with the Scarred Adventurer on a really cool project called Bravely Broken, which soon, probably very soon, stuff is going to be getting more and more out about that. Other than that, you can find me here on Thursdays, where I run Deviant Futures. I think that's it.
If I could take up the torch, because it's related.
Go right ahead.
So as it has been said, I am working with Tango Productions at the moment to create a wonderful program for you called Bravely Broken. The Instagram is something that you should, if you get a chance to, go to it, follow us right now, because starting Saturday, we will be doing a lot more posts and stuff like that. Because I can't say exactly what we're doing, because I want that to be something you discover through the Instagram, but it is the reason I won't be here next week.
And I won't either.
So I'm planning that we won't have a game next week.
Which works out. But I'm going to be so dead the next week as well, but that's a different story, and we can worry about that then.
What about people who aren't on Instagram? Do you have any other socials for Bravely?
We also
We
have
do.
social medias on
Facebook.
At Bravely_broken. Or Bravely, Bravely. The link is right in the chat.
Oh, I see
Yes.
that now.
And
We
you can-
also have YouTube and Prolonged Engagement, which is the Tango Productions YouTube.
They just won't let me change the name of the link.
Eventually, we may end up getting a specific Bravely Broken YouTube as well. That's a discussion for another day, though. But you can find us if you can. We did have a Twitter, but have you looked at Twitter?
Things are going awry
No.
on Twitter.
Twitter is broken.
So broken.
Twitter's scary.
But still, please be sure to check us out on our Instagram and Facebook. There will be some very, very clear updates on the Instagram. So if you don't have Instagram, grab it. If
Or
you want to
Facebook.
follow us, use Facebook as well. I don't know how to upload to that nearly as well, so that'll be a challenge. But still, I am greatly looking forward to what's coming, and I hope you guys are looking forward to it too.
All right. Let's go to Shadow.
Hello, folks. I'm Shadow, also known as the True Shadowmancer. I'm one of the founders of DDR, the Desperate Dice Rollers. If you all would like to come out and visit us in our Discord channel, you can find us the link in the chat. You can also find me here on Thursday nights in Deviant Futures as Wooja, the psychotic undead fairy. We have a number of projects going on over at DDR at the moment. I run a learning game for those just learning how to play or learning how to play in a particular style. Currently working on my own gaming world for release. So if you are interested in helping with that or knowing more about that, feel free to reach out to me. I can use all the help I can get.
Let's go to Glory.
Okay, that leaves me. So I am also known as Blaze of Gloriosa all over the interwebs. I am still on Twitter because it costs Elon Musk money for me to be on there. So I'm still on Twitter. I stream on my own channel sometimes. I'm here on Sunday nights, Monday nights, and Wednesday nights for this show, and then our Buffy show, Grave New World, and then our D&D show, Sudden Heroes. I don't remember the name of it's like in some sort of module thing with the queen or something. I don't know. Anyway, we do that. I try to stream on my own channel on Mondays and Wednesdays, but that hasn't been happening as much. So just come here. Just come here. That's me.
All right. Well, if you're watching on YouTube and you made it this far, please smash that subscribe and smash that like button. And as always on Dirty 20, when we let people go, we want to let them go with a reminder to be nice to everyone.
Thank you,
So-
Siosa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So everybody, thank you for
Thank you.
coming out.